What's up, guys, and welcome back to Thomas Reacts here on the 360 Experience with myself, Thomas Mabaso.
So if we look ahead now, and let's just say that each of the political parties had the opportunity of asking you to guide them. If the ANC were to give you a call, Ramaphosa himself, and say, Mr. Johnson, what would you advise me to do in the next 12 months? How would you respond?
Well, I think that although it wouldn't appeal normally to ANC activists or strategists, I think that what I would say is, look, I think you really have to level with the country and say, look, the situation is extremely serious, and that's in good part our own fault. And we now face an absolutely very, very difficult situation. We're going to have to make some very difficult choices. But what I can say to you is that the ANC is still the biggest party, that we are inevitably going to be part of the solution, as well as, if you like, part of the problem, and that we think that you should listen very carefully to what we've got to say, because there's been too much happy talk and not enough realistic talk. But now I think we've really got to level with you. I think that would get people's attention. Unfortunately, I think it would also create a certain amount of cynicism. But I think that, you know, people tend at election time to go in for fairly crazy, they want to promise the moon, as it were. And the ANC version of that is, of course, NHI. Where they are selling to ordinary voters the idea that everybody, without paying any money at all, can enjoy private medical care in effect. And this is, of course, nonsense and completely impossible. But that is the idea being sold, as it were. And, of course, it's a very attractive idea, but it's fantasy. It's complete and utter fantasy. And the reality is that even on the lowest estimate, NHI would cost hundreds of billions of rand a year extra. And there's no way that we can raise that sort of money from taxation. And the whole point of what Godongwana is saying is there simply isn't money for big new projects of that sort. And of course the ANC is now stuck because they want to come out with that as their big appeal to the election. But it's a dream, it's a fantasy. And I think it would be far better if they just faced reality and spoke the truth. I think it would get people's attention.
I honestly don't think the ANC will do that, man. The ANC will not tell the truth. Why? Because the ANC, they don't have to tell the truth. South Africans have been voting for the ANC despite everything that the ANC has done, despite what the ANC has said. So coming to South Africans and telling them the truth about, guys, we have a problem right now in our country. We are in deep trouble, basically. And we need you to trust us because we've been in governance for 30 years and we have the experience to fix what is wrong in this country. The ANC will never do that because the ANC understands that the voters in this country, they don't care about service delivery, they don't care about load shedding, they don't care about the policies. They don't care. That's why I find it odd when I see opposition parties campaigning on service delivery, campaigning on load shedding, as if service delivery ever mattered. Service delivery never mattered to South Africans, especially South African voters. It never. And that's why the ANC will always make it a point that when their people go to the polls, they don't think about the policy or what the ANC could do for them. But they are thinking about the race, they are thinking about racism, and they are thinking about apartheid. That's what the ANC does. That's what the ANC and the media does. They play together in this whole thing. This is the reason why I always tell you that before you know it, you're going to see apartheid documentaries on your television, you're going to see apartheid movies. These are the things that they know that rile people up It is not about the potholes. It is not about the sewages. Man, people are used to the conditions that we are in right now. Because I believe that if South Africans were not used to living with sewages, to living with load shedding, they would have voted our ANC long time ago. But the fact that South Africans have never voted out the ANC till now, despite us having the worst service delivery ever, it shows you that South Africans, they don't care about service delivery. So campaigning on service delivery, it makes no sense. You really have to go to that racism thing. You really have to go to the race. If you really want to have people voting for you in South Africa, the recipe is that you must touch on race. This is why right now, even Gayton McKenzie is talking about the colored communities versus the black communities. He's telling the colored communities that the ANC is doing a lot for the black communities and is not doing nothing for us as the colored community. Because Gayton McKenzie understands that this policy of his, of chasing out illegal immigrants, of cleaning South Africa, of getting rid of criminals, of bringing back a death penalty, he knows that people, they don't vote on that. People vote on race. So if he wants the colored communities to come to Patriotic Alliance, he's going to tell the colored communities that, guys, the ANC does nothing for you. The ANC only works for the black people. This is why the Gayton McKenzie is saying that right now. So I think R.W. Johnson, Mr. Johnson right here, is wrong to suggest that the ANC should be honest with the voters, man. The ANC, they don't have to be honest with the voters. The voters, they love being lied to. They love being lied to. You can hear right now, he's telling you that the ANC is telling people about NHI. This is the same thing that the EFF is doing about land expropriation without compensation. These are wild policies, crazy policies that will never happen. But because they are appealing, people will vote on that. So what's the point of telling people the truth when people when people prefer being lied to? I will never tell the people the truth when they prefer being lied to. The ANC understands that the voters in this country, they prefer being lied to. This is why they will continue lying until the party is dead. The ANC will never be honest with South Africans. Never. It will never. You can hear Mr. Johnson is telling you that the ANC should be honest with the South Africans, should tell South Africans that, guys, we are in trouble. But at the same time, he's telling you that the ANC is pushing all of these crazy policies. And they are attractive to South Africans. And that's what South Africans are going to vote on. So if you think it's going to be easy to convince people not to vote for the ANC, you are sadly mistaken, man. I told you that we live in South Africa, man. A lot of people in this country are poor. Most of these people who are poor, they depend on the ANC government. The ANC government has given them houses. The ANC government has given them water. The ANC government has given them electricity. The ANC government is giving them the grants. So it's not going to be easy to tell the people not to vote for the African National Congress. And people are always going to vote for the African National Congress. The ANC has its solid base. They know that young people in this country, they don't care about voting. They know that. That's why they will always talk about apartheid, racism, and all of these issues. They know young people, they don't care about policy, they don't care about politics, they don't care about elections. The ANC knows that. The ANC knows that majority of its voters are people who lived in apartheid. So you always have to remind them of apartheid, of what happened in apartheid, so that these people can continue voting for you. The ANC will always do that because they know their base, most of their base, they have experienced apartheid. This is why election after election, the ANC will tell you about apartheid. The same thing they are doing right now in 2023. They know young people, man, they don't care about voting. And the young people in this country, they don't care about apartheid. They don't care about the history of apartheid. Man, people simply want to work and provide for their families. But at the same time, young people, they don't care about politics. They don't realize that politics determines where the country goes. So right now, our country is being determined by people who lived in apartheid, people who still cherish the idea of voting. Most of the ANC voters are people who still cherish the idea of voting because they lived in apartheid. They know how important it is to vote. That's why they will continue lying to the people. They will never tell the people the truth, man. They will never. Because the people, they prefer being lied to.
So sober up and level with the population, and who knows, you might get the votes that that rationality would would prevail over promises. And what about Steenhuisen? If John Steenhuisen phoned you up and said, Mr. Johnson, what would you advise us to do for the multi-party coalition in the next 12 months?
Well, I have to say that I did add...
And before he talks about John Steenhuisen, man, before he talks about the DA and John Steenhuisen, I have to remind you that the ANC right now in 2023, they are campaigning, telling the people that you must remember what the ANC has done since 1994. Don't judge us based on these 5 years or on the past 10 years. No. Judge us on what we have done since 1994. So you don't have to tell the people the truth, man. You don't have to. The ANC knows that the majority of people in this country, they are poor. Majority of people in this country have depended on the ANC government. They know that. This is why they are reminding the people of everything that the ANC has done for them. And I think about all of these things, man, and I look at the opposition parties. And the opposition parties, man, they are not ready to take the fight from the ANC. The opposition parties, they are not ready to get their hands dirty, man. That's what I can tell you about them. They are not. All of these political parties, man, they keep popping up out of nowhere. They do their press conferences and they fade. And the more they launch these political parties, the more people are going to go back to the ANC. You know how voters are. It's either they vote for the ANC or they don't vote. So now the ANC only has to make sure that people come to the polls and vote. Because they know that if people come to the polls and vote, it's going to be hard for people not to vote for the ANC. You know better the devil you know.
Votes that rationality would prevail over promises. And what about Steenhuisen? If John Steenhuisen phoned you up and said, Mr. Johnson, what would you advise us to do for the multi-party coalition in the next 12 months?
Well, I have to say that I did advocate something like the multi-party coalition quite a long time before the DA started to come up with that idea. So in that sense, they are doing partly what I advocated anyway. Well, look, obviously, and I think it follows from what I was saying before, I think they have to talk far more about economics than they're doing. And they also have to level with people. At the moment, the DA is promising that, don't worry, if we are elected, we won't cut any social grants, and all social spending will be sacrosanct and so on. I don't think this is realistic any longer. I think it's quite clear that very difficult choices are going to have to be made, and that everyone ought to face up to this. And I think the DA needs, in any case, if it's going to be taken seriously as a party of government, it's got to have a much stronger and clearer economic policy.
I guess the dilemma there would be, if they are honest about social grants, it might alienate a big sector of the population, 19 million I think now, who are receiving social grants. Not all of them.
No, 28 million, man. Ramaphosa did a speech, I think, during the ANC manifestos. I don't remember where, but Ramaphosa did a speech. No, during the ANC, the African National Congress Youth League celebration. I think when they were celebrating 79 years, Ramaphosa did a speech there. He said that 28 million South Africans, they depend on social grants. 28 million people. And you hear the DA fantasizing about this idea of scraping the grants. People will never vote for the DA for that. They don't. They will never vote for the DA for that. Because this is what the ANC is telling the people, man, that these guys are going to cut your grants. And knowing that they are talking to poor people in South Africa. These people, man, they cherish these grants. You have to understand that people cherish these grants. To you, it might be small money, 500, 350. But to poor people, man, this is everything. They cherish this thing. So if you tell them that the Democratic Alliance is going to scrap your grants, people are easily not going to vote for the Democratic Alliance. And I think the DA, man, the DA really needs to work on its identity, man. I think the party is all over the place. The DA doesn't know whether they want to represent black people, whether they want to represent white people, or whether they want to represent all South Africans. The DA doesn't understand. They don't know where they stand. And they need to figure that out first. Because right now, like I said, guys, in my previous video, that it is not hard to make a case against the DA to the people. You don't even have to make a compelling case against the DA to the people. You just have to tell them that the DA is a racist party. They are kicking out black professionals in that party. And people are convinced. Unlike with the DA, when they talk about the EFF and the ANC, they tell the people they have to make compelling arguments for people not to vote for the ANC and the EFF. The DA has to do that. But the EFF and the ANC, they don't have to do that when they tell people not to vote for the DA. They simply tell the people that the DA is a racist party. They are kicking out black professionals in that party. So would you want to be part of the party that kicks black professionals out of it? People simply say no. And people will not vote for the DA. So it is not hard to make a case against the DA. And this is what the DA has done for its... Man, the DA did this to itself. They did this to itself. And now people cannot trust them. And I honestly think that the DA is one party, man, that is going to take a huge knock in 2024. If you really listen to what people are saying, man, if you put your ear to the ground, John Steenhuisen is not popular right now in South Africa. He's not. This is why people are saying that in 2024 we might see a scenario where it's ANC, EFF and the DA. The DA might not be the biggest opposition party in 2024. Fact.
In voters, of course, but it's a big chunk of society.
No, that's absolutely true. You can see why politicians don't want to offend such a large bloc. Although I'm not sure how many of that bloc are voting DA, but you know, that's just one example. We are trying to run the only welfare state in Africa, and yet we're doing that without the sort of income which Scandinavian welfare states have. And I mean, the whole thing is bound to come apart in the end. We cannot give people free health, social grants, and all the rest. You know, it's just, we don't have the means to do it.
But that's not what people want to hear, man. That's not what people want to hear. It may be true, but that's not what people want to hear. And if you touch on people's grants, man, I tell you, and I'm warning all the political parties, man, if you touch the grants, if you tell the people that you're going to scrap the grants, you're going to lose the elections in 2024. I'm warning these political parties. You cannot touch the issue of grants. You cannot. South Africa has too much poor people. Too many. South Africa has too many poor people. If you tell them that you're going to take away their grants, man, you're going to see South Africans out in the polls in 2024. They're going to make sure that they vote for the ANC, because the ANC is telling them that we might increase this 350. We want to give the unemployed graduates 2,500. That's what the ANC is saying. Now they want to give unemployed graduates, I think it's 4,500. The president of the ANC Youth League said that the ANC government must give the unemployed graduates 4,500. And I'm sure the ANC is thinking of that. So if you touch the issue of grants, man, I'm telling you, it may be true, man, South Africa might be broke. But if you touch the issue of grants, then your campaign is done. It's done. And it's a sad scenario, man, that we are in that position right now in South Africa. Because I believe that maybe, like, just imagine if South Africa, man, it was a prospering country. People would think about what benefits them. Unlike right now, people simply want to survive. This is why they will continue voting for the ANC no matter what the ANC does. They will continue voting for the ANC.
So your third phone call, once you've recovered from hearing Julius Malema on the line, would be from the EFF. How would you advise them?
Well, it's difficult to do that because, in a sense, you know, they are gaining ground. And you can say, well, you know, what they've been doing is succeeding. They are gaining. And it looks like they're going to become the main opposition party in the Western Cape, for example.
Yes.
And
the DA better watch out. You listen to that. The DA better watch out.
they are gay, and it looks like they're going to become the main opposition party in the Western Cape, for example. And I think that they'll probably be the main opposition party in a few other provinces as well. And there's no doubt that great chunks of the ANC vote are now hesitating on the brink of going over to them. And that, you know, I think I would have to say, well, much as I don't particularly like it myself, what you seem to have been doing up till now is paying off, so don't stop.
Exactly, man. Exactly. The EFF man has been playing the game nice. You really have to admire the EFF man. Just imagine, man, you open up a new political party, you take all the policies of the ANC and you implement them into your own party, and you tell the people that the ANC has failed to implement these policies, and as the EFF we are going to implement these policies. Malema didn't even have to think about the policies, man. The ANC gave them, the ANC gave him everything. All of the policies of the ANC, EFF is running with them right now. All of them. All of the policies that the EFF is talking about right now, the ANC has been saying all of these things for years. Land expropriation without compensation, nationalization of Reserve Bank, nationalization of mines, nationalization of land. Guys, the ANC has been talking about these policies, and the ANC has failed to deliver on these policies. This is why the EFF today is saying, guys, South Africans, the ANC has failed to expropriate land without compensation. As the EFF, we are going to implement that policy. The ANC has failed to nationalize the Reserve Bank. As the EFF, we are going to do exactly that. We are going to nationalize the Reserve Bank. We are going to nationalize the mines, and we are going to expropriate land without compensation. It must be nice, man, being an EFF. It must be nice. It must be nice. And it is working for them. Because right now, people who no longer want to vote for the ANC are now going to the EFF. It is easier for people who used to vote for the ANC to go to the EFF than to go to the DA. This is why the DA is so bitter today, telling the people that the EFF is enemy number one, and they are bitter. Because they hoped that once people get tired of voting for the ANC, they will vote for the DA. But now we have the EFF, and people can easily go to the EFF because the EFF is proposing the same policies of the ANC. This is why the DA is mad, going around telling the people that the EFF, they want to take the democracy. Hey, the democracy is on ballot. Man, they sound like the Democrats there in the United States. That's what the DA sounds like right now. They sound like Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and all of those Democrats right now in the United States telling you that democracy is over and all of that. I must say, man, shout out to Julius Malema, man. Julius Malema has managed to play this game very well. He knows that South Africans are gullible, man. You really have to tell South Africans that you're going to expropriate land without compensation. You're going to give them farms. You're going to give them the equipment. They don't have to ask, where will you get the money? No, South Africans are not going to ask that. While the Thomas Mabaso of this world are going to sit and be like, okay, if you give me the land and you give me the equipment to work on this land, where will you get the money to give me the equipment? Where will you get the money to give the next person equipment? Where will you get the money to, you see? But people, they don't ask that question. Where will the EFF get the money to open all of these industries they are talking about, to give people the farming land? People, they don't talk about money. No, the policies, they sound nice. This is what Mr. Johnson is talking about. If the policies sound nice enough, people are going to vote for you. It's nice being an ANC and EFF, man. It's nice being these guys. The DA going around running on economy and what, man. Majority of people in South Africa are not educated. So if you're going to tell them about economy, they're not going to listen to you. As much as economy is important, but majority of voters in this country, man, are people who are not educated. So they don't even understand what these terms, what they mean. They don't understand nothing about the economics. Nothing. This is why right now when the ANC says free education, free housing, free, people will chant for the ANC. They will never ask the ANC, where will you get the money for this? No, they don't.
And your projection or your view some time ago when you felt that the ANC and the EFF are the most likely partners after 2024, is this still your opinion?
Well, look, it depends so much on what proportion of the vote the ANC gets. If they were to get 41% and the EFF were to get 15 or thereabout, then there's a certain logic to that. I think that actually, if the ANC had the choice, I think it would like a deal with the IFP. I think that would be much easier, safer, more moderate, and they would feel more comfortable with that than they would with the EFF. But, of course, the IFP is in a very difficult situation because they're part of the multi-party coalition and they want to remain loyal to that. But what they're frightened of is that the ANC will come along to them and say, well, look, it's up to you. We either have to have you as partners or we'll have to have the EFF. Do you want to be responsible for forcing us to make a deal with the EFF? And I think the IFP would find that very hard.
So guys, man, what are your thoughts, man, on this whole thing, man? What are your thoughts? Do you think the ANC would prefer going into coalition with the IFP than the EFF or the DA? Because I think the ANC, man, will go to it. I think it will be easier for the ANC to go into coalition with the EFF, man. You have to understand that the EFF is ANC light. They are children of the ANC. It's going to be easier, man. And I also don't think that Ramaphosa and Malema can hold each other accountable. It's going to work nice for them if the ANC and the EFF go into coalition in 2024. These guys, both of them. The ANC cadres, man, they love nice things. The EFF cadres, they love nice things. Gucci's, you know. They will never hold each other accountable. Never. I also think, man, the ANC will prefer the EFF than the IFP.
Such a fascinating country, isn't it, that we live in, and the times that we're living in right now. And I guess it could get even more interesting over the next year, Mr. Johnson.
No, I think that's right. I mean, elections are always interesting. And the fact that the sort of solidity of the previous blocks, that seems to have gone, that opens up all sorts of things to change. And, you know, we don't know. I mean, a year is still a long time. Don't know what's it. But it seems quite likely that the opposition is going to win the three biggest provinces, Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal and Western Cape. And I think that would be a very important fact. They're the three most urbanized provinces. It would show that the ANC is retreating and become a more rural party. And of course it would put the ANC in a difficult situation in that those are the economic heartlands of South Africa. And if they're going to shrink where that is, then that's got its own importance.
And just as the final question, given the possibility of an ANC-EFF alliance, we've seen in the Western Cape great momentum in the independence, Cape independence movement, or certainly so it seems on the ground.
I don't want to listen to Cape independence, man. Guys, what are your thoughts, man, on this whole conversation, man? Do you think that the ANC will be honest with South Africans and tell South Africans that, guys, this is what is happening right now in our country, and you can trust us to fix everything? Or do you think that the ANC will continue lying to the people of South Africa? And what about the coalitions, man? Do you think that the ANC would prefer going into coalitions with the EFF, the DA, or the IFP? Guys, please tell me what you think on the comment section. Don't forget to hit that like button. And the most important part is subscribe. My name is Thomas Mabaso, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.